Hello, fellow seekers and self-explorers. So today is a big piece. Today we're going to be talking about shadow work. Oh, I know it can feel so scary and intimidating. And what is it anyway? Right? So this is what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to be sharing my understanding of it, my experience of it, and hopefully make it a little less intimidating for you guys and a little more digestible, so you can choose to explore that with a little more ease and a curious heart. So this is really what we're going to be talking about today. Before we go any further, I want to read to you a simple definition that I've found about shadow. And I like to keep things simple. So shadow is darkness in a place caused by something preventing light from reaching it. Shadow is darkness in a place caused by something preventing light from reaching it. So we have an object, we have a light source, we have an object, and the light can't go through that dense object, so then it creates a shadow. Okay, so the idea, what it means to go and look for our own shadows within ourselves, well, basically is to go and seek for those places within ourselves that have been sitting in the dark, that are kept in the dark, where no light has been shined upon. So that's really what it means. And by light, really, I like to see it as love. Okay, so it's a place that has been either judged, repressed, condemned, and forgotten about. So it's those areas of ourselves we are not aware of. And that's why it can be scary, because we don't know what we are going to find. That's the main reason why it can feel a little scary and intimidating to do the shadow work. So also, now that we know what shadow is about, work, I mean, most of us are doing a lot of work. So I think it's nice to maybe change that word just for the purpose of this video, then do what you want. But let's call it exploration. This is kind of what this channel is about, exploring ourselves. And I find it doesn't feel as heavy, right? So let's do some shadow exploration. What it means really. We are walking this earth with light and shadows, and eventually shadow work, shadow exploration needs to be done or comes into play. And most likely, if you're watching this video, it's something you're familiar with, or it's starting to show up in your surrounding, and you start hearing about it. It's because it's an essential part of our evolution, and it's often overlooked, because the thing with shadow, it kind of feels threatening to our ego. And our ego is what we know is our personality, is who we believe we are, what we've built on all our life. So it can be challenging for that part of ourselves who is attached to our belief, our identity, what we know of ourselves, right? And shadow is what we don't know. So it is a little scary to dive into this. It's like looking under our bed, expecting to see a huge, scary monster coming out of it. Okay, so let's see how we can make a little bit lighter. Light and shadow, we carry both. We have both of those aspects into ourselves. And the idea of doing spiritual work is to really become whole, is really to shine the light on all the parts of ourselves, bringing them into the light so they can be fully integrated. It's not about getting rid of the shadow so we become only light. Being awakened, being enlightened, or I like the word awakened, being awakened means that we are aware of that. We are aware that we are both light and shadows, and we all have parts of ourselves. All of us, we have part of ourselves that are sitting in the dark, all of us. If not, we would be transparent beings just radiating light. right? That's why we all have this object, remember, shadow, a light source, an object very dense, and then casting a shadow. If we were only light, there would be completely transparent, no object here, there would be no shadows. We are not, we are matter, we are made of both light and shadows. We do cast a shadow when we stand in front of the light, okay? It is like that. So the first step is really to acknowledge that we do have shadows, meaning we do have parts of ourselves we are not aware of. Okay, and I'd like to share something that Carl Jung said that I find is very useful to understand how we can do some shadow work and what it's about. So let me share this with you here. So he said, we do not see others, rather part of ourselves we have already acknowledged or parts we haven't yet acknowledged. So it is a very important part in stepping into shadow exploration is understanding that we are not separated from one another, that when we see someone else, it is not the other person really that we see, it's a projection of a part of ourselves. So it's either something of ourselves that we already have acknowledged, that we know, which is already in the light, or if we are judging that part of ourselves that we see in that other person, if we are triggered, if we are reacting to that, it is a part that we have not yet acknowledged, meaning a shadow part of ourselves. So I really wanted to share that with you to help you understand that that's a key element in doing that shadow exploration is to use, we're constantly projecting and reflecting and having that understanding that we do not experience others, we experience part of ourselves. And that's a key element to understanding and doing that shadow work. Okay, all right. So now another key point I really wanted to share with you is we live in the world, this great illusion of separation, light versus shadow, good versus bad, right versus wrong. So when we step into that shadow exploration, when it's calling us, when it's time for us to do the work, it means it's time to let's say become more whole and step into that illusion of separation with consciousness, with awareness, to not be separate anymore from the rest of the world and come back to that unity, because we are all one. And the idea of evolution and raising our consciousness together is bringing everything together to be fully integrated as one. This is beautiful. It's amazing. And we're raising in consciousness together that way, but the work has to start within. So shadow work eventually becomes an essential part of our individual spiritual evolution. All right, so now really shadow work, what it's about, becoming whole, guys, bringing those parts of ourselves to the light so we can be whole again. Okay, so we can be more compassionate, because when we understand this part of ourselves that's been sitting in the shadow that we may have judged in someone else, when we understand it as part of ourselves, when we integrate it as part of ourselves, we can understand the other person better. We can be more compassionate. So that's why the number one really tool when stepping into that shadow exploration is non-judgment. You can only go in that kind of work with non-judgment. And who judges? It's the ego. And the ego is great. It's fantastic. It's necessary for us to step into our roles and play that beautiful human game. It's amazing. But then when you do shadow work, it can only be done through the heart, not through ego, because the ego is going to feel threatened, because the ego is the one who judges what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. And shadow work is about bringing and merging the two together, where there is no illusion of separation anymore. We are all of it. All of it. I'm going to share with you something with you. I wasn't sure if it was going to come up, but I feel it is. You know, when I feel my heart beating really fast, it's like, okay, that's an intimate moment, and that is a moment of sharing for me. So thank you for that. I'm going to share with you something very personal here that might help you understand the depth of what shadow work can be. I was abused when I was a child, when I was very young. I did a few times, I did regression work, regression exploration. I have no recollection of it. Sorry, I'm struggling to find my word. It's not easy to share and be vulnerable here, but this is part of my shadow work and shadow exploration. So thank you for allowing me. So I did some regression exploration, and what happened in that is I went deep into it, and I started to feel deep shame, deep, profound shame. And I found myself as a very little girl. I have no active memories of it. I know it happened. I have some flashes, but I don't really have, I don't feel the trauma of it. I have very little, if none at all, childhood memories. So that's why I went into that kind of work, to explore. So going into that, I felt that deep sense of shame. And I felt I was this little girl, so ashamed. The shame was so dark. That was definitely sitting in the shadow. It was so profound, so dark, so deep. And then I continued to explore and go deeper into it. And then I felt that shame did not belong to me. That was the first important step. Like, this is not mine. I could feel the shame of the perpetrator, the abuser. I could feel the depth of the shame. And then something quite amazing happened, because I saw myself like, that's not mine. I need to release that. That does not belong to me. And the more I was doing that, the bigger it was getting, the darker and the more shameful. And then an awareness, huge awareness piece happened, where I understood this was my shame. And separating from it was making it bigger and casting a bigger shadow. And as soon as I understood that it was my shame, and as soon as I welcomed it as mine, instead of trying to reject it, I was really shining the light. You know, I like to use that flashlight, like, whoa, this is mine. And shining the light on it with love, and be open to welcome it fully, so it doesn't hide any deeper. By doing that, another door opened, and something quite amazing happened. I became the perpetrator. I became the abuser. I was the abuser. And at that point in my heart, in my cells, I knew I had done that too. I could feel it. Is it true? Because then I had images of me as a woman in another life. Is it true? This is not an invitation to believe in past lives. I'm not even sure I believe in them. It doesn't even matter. The story doesn't really matter here. Why I'm sharing this with you guys is because this was real to me at the time. I could feel it in my cells. I could feel all of it in my heart. And what it did, going from I need to release that chain that's not mine, or I need to forgive my abuser, then I realized this was me. That I had to accept that shame as part of me. I had to accept and welcome that and love that about me. The only person to forgive is myself for all the things that I may have done and I don't remember. And I started to open that door of remembering. And that could only be done with a good amount of self-love and non-judgment. If not, everything stays locked because it's too terrifying, too condemning. So I'm sharing that with you, and this is a very personal piece here, but also it was the most transformative one in my journey and my initiation to shadow work and the mystery of life. We are so quick to judge. We are so quick to condemn. And we don't know. We don't remember what we have done. We don't know all the depth and all the stuff. And we are capable of the best and we are capable of the worst. We are. All of this is part of us. This experience was so transformative to me. And what it did, of course, it brought that piece of me back home. And now I can, it brought a piece of freedom also. And now I can have compassion for those aspects that I may have judged in people before because I recognized it in myself. So this is a very profound and powerful piece. I'm grateful I was able to share with you. I wasn't sure I would be able to, so I'm glad I did. And now, that being said, let's go with, I prepared a little something for you guys to make it really practical into stepping into that shadow exploration, because we can be talking about it. It's such a personal experience. And how do we do this and how? So first, I prepared a little toolbox because it's so important to know the tools that you need before you go into the adventure. So here it is. Here, so that's the little toolbox. That's the toolbox that was helpful for me. And whenever I decide to explore a shadow or something shows up, I like to set the intention first. You need to be willing. The power of intention is so important, and you decide. You're in charge. You're the captain of your boat, of your life. You're the creator of it. So it is about your intention. You don't have to do anything. If it's calling you, you just need to be willing and have your intention. And by that alone, the universe is going to give you exactly what you need to do it. So trust that. First, the first tool, intention. Then, oh my God, that one is very important, a very good amount of self-love, meaning non-judgment. Non-judgment. It needs to be done with the heart, with enough love for yourself so you can navigate. If we go with our ego part, rather than our hearts, it gets tricky and challenging because the ego is going to protect us to not see all those parts, okay? So you need a good amount of self-love. And please, curiosity. That's why I like to replace the word work by exploration. Go with a curious heart. Go with a curious heart. That's really going to shift the energy. And good flashlight. You know, I love my flashlight. Make sure you have the batteries on in your flashlight. And yeah, explore with that beautiful flashlight of yours. So that's really the tools you want to grab in your toolbox. And, I like to make things fun. So that helps me to keep it fun. Intention, self-love, curiosity, and a good flashlight. All right. Okay, so those are the tools. And now, how to really concretely, I told you a personal story, and you don't have to go as far as doing some kind of regression exploration. You can do it in your everyday life, because remember, as Carl Jung said, we are experiencing not others, but parts of ourselves. So keep that in mind. And then what you can do really is notice, look for it, be aware of when it steps in other people and situation in your life. What is triggering you in someone in your life right now, in a specific situation you're going through? As soon as there is a reaction, a trigger, if there is a reaction, if you're not fully loving and embracing what's in front of you, you are tapping into a shadow. Yay! Isn't that amazing? So you can, instead of fighting what the universe is sending you, what you is showing yourself right now, this part of you that you're like, hey, not liking so much, that's an opportunity. It's as simple as that. Okay, so you can sit with that and observe, what am I judging in that person or situation? Why I don't like that? You can ask yourself all those questions and sit with yourself to look within. Also, that's something I hope you're going to remember forever. I know you're not going to like what I'm going to say, but we are what we hate. I know. We are what we hate. So that's another very cool exploration point. What do you hate? What do I hate the most in general, in people, in that person, in that situation? We are what we hate. And you don't need to have all the answers right now. Be aware. Just be aware. Sometimes it takes me years to realize, like, oh my God, that was that. Sometimes like, no. It's nothing like me. Forget it. And I'm just not ready to acknowledge it. And it's okay. But with the awareness, instead of be like, nah, toxic, I don't want to be near this. Maybe now you can be like, oh, I'm rejecting this, I'm judging this, I'm not liking this. This is a part of my shadow. I'm not seeing it, and I don't want to go explore that right now. It's okay, but I know it's a part of me, but I'm not ready yet. It's okay. It's okay too. Just work on the awareness of it first. And then little by little, whenever you're ready to have your intention, your good amount of self-love, your flashlight and your curious heart, eventually, or not, and it's okay too. Yeah, there is no shoulds here, so please, only if you feel called to dive deeper. So that's that. And then, so first is to acknowledge it, be aware of it. Then you want to accept it. Accept it, because usually there is a first, there's an initial, can be denial. No, it has nothing to do with me. I don't want that. Denial, or fight. Get out. I don't want to see this. We're fighting it. Or flight. We run away from it. I do that all the time. I'm a big runaway of everything. I would hide and wait for it to pass. So yeah, so accept it after this initial phase of either denial or fighting it, or that's the second step. And then a third step, you can integrate it. When you've been through those steps, you can integrate it simply. There's nothing to do really. When you say, how do I do the shadow work? It's just awareness. There is nothing else to do but accept it, acknowledge it as a part of yourself. Welcome it as a part of yourself. And it's going to help you become more whole, more compassionate. And then we welcome also all those challenging situations and people with a completely different heart and eye. It's not so much as separation, is we welcome it as an opportunity to evolve and grow and become a little bit more whole integrate that part of ourselves. It is a gift. All the challenging people in your life are angels to really show you those little parts of yourself that are sitting in the dark. That's it. It is as simple as that. Really, the object, that's sitting between the light and the shadows, I like to see it as judgment. It is our own judgment. If you take the judgment away, then the light can shine in those shadow parts. It is as simple as that, really. All right, let me show you. I'm gonna, because I prepared that too. Yeah, I prepared a little bit today. I did, because it's such a big piece and I wanted really help you guys. So that's the first step I told you about. First, the how to do shadow work, shadow exploration. First step, recognize it. You can ask yourself, what triggers me in this person, in this situation? As soon as there is a trigger, there is an opportunity to work into your shadow. You're tapping into a shadow. You can ask yourself, what do I hate? Remember, we are what we hate. I'm going to repeat it one more time. We are what we hate. And why? You can ask yourself all those questions. That's going to help you recognize first there is a shadow aspect of you right here. Second step, accept it. So that comes after the initial either denial, this has nothing to do with me, or fight, get out of my way, or flight, when it's toxic, I'm out of here, let me leave. Okay. And the last step, integrated. It's integration. Integration is the key. Integration instead of separation. Integrate it by acknowledging it as part of yourself. And then we become more whole, more free, and more compassionate. We can have compassion only for the things that we've been through or that we recognize in yourself, right? So that's important. So that's why by recognizing everything as part of ourselves, that we've been through it, even if we don't remember it, it is a part of ourselves, then there's nothing to judge anymore. We can forgive in our hearts, ourselves, love all of it, because it was an experience that needed to happen to experience love and the depth of love. Because guys, everything is love. Everything is. Even the worst, what you judge the worst shadowy parts of someone, it is love. It may be a distortion of it, but it is love. And the idea is to come back to that place fully, seeing everything with the eyes of love. So I think we did it. That was big. That was big. Thank you so much for being here with me today. That was a big video for me too, important for my own healing too. So I'm really grateful to all of you for allowing me to do that here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I wish you a wonderful, exciting, maybe a little scary, but not too much, shadow exploration. Bye, everyone.